I caught my wife in the act, right in my own home, and I got my revenge on her and her boss. I'm sitting at work, absolutely furious. This year, I haven't seen my son, haven't taken him for the summer because of that damn virus. It's driving me insane. And then, at the end of September, I found out that my wife of 5 years has been cheating on me. I spent most of my time digging into it like some FBI agent, while the filth from her affairs just kept pouring over me in an endless stream. The worst part? We kept living together. I had to sit there pretending nothing happened when all I wanted was to unload everything on her and throw her out of my life. My lawyer kept telling me, it's too soon. I haven't slept in my own bed for almost 2 months. When this nightmare is over, I'll burn it. I haven't had sex all this time, and yet she has the audacity to accuse me of cheating. If she tries to hug or kiss me, I have to sit there and endure it, fighting the urge to vomit right then and there. When I look at her, it's like I can see bugs crawling on her, like she's been dead for a long time. I want her gone as soon as possible, but it's too soon. The fuse in my head is running short. It's about to burn out. It's like being locked in a big, empty room with nothing but a table. The sound in the room starts echoing, tapping on the table, on the walls, the ceiling, until you just want to flip that table over and do anything to make it stop. I can't even talk to anyone about it right now because it's too soon. I'm angry at myself, disappointed in myself for putting myself in a position where I allowed someone to treat me like this again. I just want it to be over. And I miss my son so much.
Update 1. I've almost lost my resolve. Let me give you some backstory. Since my wife's browsing history, yes, I spy on her, shows she hasn't used Reddit in 6 months, I honestly don't care anymore if she finds this and recognizes us. Everyone who knew about this disgusting, stinking mess of affairs and said nothing, covering for her, you have my grudging admiration. That's a hell of a challenge, and you managed it. I came home late Sunday night. That's 100 miles of driving, about 225 kilometers, and it went fine. I was so exhausted I didn't want to see her or talk to her. All I wanted was rest. So I sat down in my chair, and before I knew it, I was asleep. I've been sleeping badly for 2 months and lost about 15 pounds. I look and feel terrible. But that was the first 8 hours of real rest I've had in a long time. On Monday, my wife tried to initiate intimacy with me, but I couldn't even get out of bed. Normally, Johnny, yes, my one-eyed snake, wakes up before I do every morning, and it's not something I can control physically. But this time, my one-eyed snake fully agreed with my mind and heart. She was upset, and we had a pretty heated argument. I told her maybe something was wrong with me. I'm 50 years old. Things happen. She started hinting again that I was cheating on her and that I was a bad husband. I hadn't slept with her in more than 2 months, hadn't told her I loved her. Clearly, in her mind, that meant I was doing something behind her back. She tried to gaslight me into confessing. And yes, I was doing something behind her back. I was piecing together the whole puzzle of her infidelity. The date was September 25. I work in auto collision repair, specifically with vehicles that have been in train accidents. That day, I cut my leg badly while working on a truck. It was serious. 5 stitches on the inside of my leg, 34 on the outside. The pain was intense. They gave me heavy painkillers and I couldn't drive. So I called my wife. No answer. 5 minutes later, I called again. No answer. Called again. Nothing. Sent another message. Nothing. About an hour and a half later, I gave up and called an Uber to take me home. We turned onto my street, my house in view, and there she was, standing in the doorway, with her mouth fully attached to the CEO of her workplace. I told the driver to stop. Oh, this wasn't just a kiss, folks. Their mouths were latched onto each other like two frenzied leeches. At that time, she was supposed to still be at work. I pulled out my phone, snapped a couple of pictures, and told the driver to keep going down the street. I asked him to take me back to work. I spent 4 hours in the break room with my head on the table in shock. My heart was shattered.
I stayed there at work for hours, just lying on the table in the break room, completely numb. My heart was in pieces. When the painkillers started wearing off, I headed home. The pain in my leg, combined with everything going through my head, was almost unbearable. When I arrived, she still wasn't home. She came in a couple of hours later looking nervous. Maybe she really was worried, maybe not. I didn't know. I asked her how her day had gone, and she came up with some nonsense about being swamped at work. I knew it was a lie. A week later, I found out for the first time that she hadn't worked a single Friday in 3 whole years. I'd never been a big Reddit user. It was always in my bookmarks, but I'd never paid much attention to it. That day, I was looking up anything I could about dealing with cheaters, and I stumbled across this subreddit through a related YouTube video. I started reading, trying to figure out what the hell I should do. Reading all those red flag posts, I kept thinking, yep, that's her. Exactly. Always on her phone, constantly texting, but for some strange reason never able to answer my calls or messages. Up until the previous Monday, she had no idea I'd been in the emergency room calling and texting her. For 2 whole months, she hadn't even opened our chat once. Instead, she yelled at me that I needed to treat her better, that I wasn't doing enough for her or our relationship. Her sheer gall made my blood boil. I grabbed my phone, opened our chat history, and shoved it in her face, showing her the unanswered messages from that day. I almost never raised my voice, but I shouted at her that the one single time I needed her to be there for me, she completely failed. She pulled out her phone, looked at everything, then silently walked out of the house for a couple of hours. When she came back, she apologized, and then lied straight to my face. Claimed she just had a bad day at work and was too busy to notice. The truth was, she hadn't seen my calls or messages because she'd been too busy being intimate with her boss in my house to answer a call from her husband. From that day onward, I went through every one of her devices, her phone, her laptop, her iPad. I discovered I could see all of her dirty laundry from one of her old phones. I also installed cameras in the house and, for 2 months, watched her cheat on me in real time. Let me tell you something, guys. I always thought Apple products were for idiots. And they are, at least for cheaters, because Apple syncs everything. I found out she didn't just dislike my son, she hated him. Probably because having him stay with me in the summer cramped her slutty lifestyle. I found out her affair with her boss had been going on for many years, and that she hadn't only been cheating with him. One of the men she slept with was a coworker I'd considered a friend for more than 14 years. She worked with his wife, and that wife had actually helped her hide the affair with the boss. They were the ones who introduced me to her. They watched me propose to her. They came to our wedding. They let me marry this woman knowing she had been cheating for years. I know of 4 lovers in total. 2 I know personally, 2 I don't. All of them had sex in my bed, on my couch, on my kitchen table where I eat, in my shower. They even used my soap.
One weekend, I went up to my hunting property to get away from that cesspool. As usual, I invited her to come along. I always asked her to join me whenever I went somewhere. She always refused. When I checked the cameras, I saw a parade of men going through my house, sleeping with my wife in every imaginable position. She didn't even shower or wash up between them. Yes, there was a camera in the bathroom, too. The same thing happened when I went to Chicago for Thanksgiving. She spent the whole weekend bringing men into my home and my bed. For 2 months, I kept all of this to myself, until I finally broke and told my ex-girlfriend what was going on. I was still wearing my mask of calm, but inside, I was inches away from full Hulk smash mode. I came close to confronting her a few times, but I swallowed the lies she fed me instead. I even apologized for arguments. I told her I'd make an appointment with a doctor about my erectile dysfunction. Then, I read the messages she sent her boss, calling me a limp appendage and saying she couldn't wait until Friday. This is not the woman I fell in love with 7 years ago. I'd like to say she's pure evil, but honestly, I think she's just seriously mentally messed up. She's definitely a sociopath.
Either way, I didn't sign up for this. It was incredibly hard for me to decide to marry her in the first place. After my first divorce, it was difficult to trust women again, or to believe that when a woman told me something, she actually meant it. Back then, I let 2 amazing women slip through my fingers because I was still shell-shocked from what my first wife had done. More from what I went through after the divorce than from her not loving me. She gutted me alive. After my first divorce, I walked away with $43 in my pocket, no home, no car, no way to work, no family support, and I spent the next 3 years bouncing from couch to couch because everything I earned went to alimony and paying off my debt. I was 22 years old and my life was wrecked before it had even started. I spent my 24th birthday drunk on a friend's couch with a gun in my mouth, crying like a baby because I didn't have the strength to pull the trigger. I couldn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Since that day, I've kept $43 in my wallet as a reminder of the lowest point I've ever reached. I'm not saying I'm in the exact same place now, but I feel the same way I did back then. Yes, I'm wiser now and I've covered my own back this time, but you know how it is the first time. It burns into you. That time, I caught them in the act. Just like in those old jokes, the husband comes home early from a trip and boom, it's over. The gaslighting was her saying, "It's not what it looks like," then screaming at me to stop kicking the crap out of her brother and his friend. Never do that. That one mistake hurt me badly during the divorce. But what's done is done. There was no denying it that time. All the therapy I went through ended up being for nothing. This time, it was a slow-motion process of mutual deceit. I had to hold everything in and got nothing but lies in return. Even when there was no reason to lie, she still lied. I don't love this woman anymore. Our anniversary will become her day of shame, her personal Pearl Harbor day. I want to make sure she remembers it. But the seconds drag by like hours. I'm exhausted. My head constantly aches. All the therapy I went through feels like it was for nothing. Update 2. It's over. Yesterday, I told her everything I knew. Some of you in the comments were asking why I was putting myself through this when I already had all the proof of her cheating. Here's why. Before officially filing for divorce, I had to secure my financial stability so I wouldn't end up with only $40 in my pocket again. I needed to change our insurance policies, update my will, sort out retirement accounts. And I wanted to surprise her on our anniversary. Call me a sadist, but I wanted to humiliate her. I was willing to endure every bit of her contemptuous remarks that she made to all these idiots she was sleeping with. I wanted her to feel just as gutted in every way as I had at 22. So yesterday morning, I went to work as usual, had breakfast while waiting for her to leave. I rented a truck, came back home, and changed the locks. My friend and her husband came over, brought another friend, and the four of us packed up all her belongings. We loaded up every piece of bedroom furniture I'd given her as a wedding gift. My couch, my dining table, all the furniture that her lovers had used. We put it in storage and shoved all her clothes into garbage bags. I was going to take them to the dump, but my friend talked me out of it. We finished before noon. Around lunchtime, I bought flowers and a box of chocolates and went to her workplace. I gave her the flowers and candy, hugged her tight, and kissed her. She was all smiles and blushing, with her coworkers cooing, "Oh, how sweet!" I told her I'd like to take her out to lunch, but first I had to check on my leg and to make no evening plans because I was going to give her an unforgettable night. Then I kissed her goodbye and left. On the way out, I saw her boss. I gave him a big smile and said, "Hey there, Tom. How you doing?" Waved at him and left. At 2 p.m., a paralegal was scheduled to drop off a packet of evidence at my wife's work. At exactly 2 p.m., I was standing outside Tom's house. I sent him the photo I'd taken that day I caught them, plus a selfie of me in front of his house. I knocked, and Mrs. Tom opened the door. I knew her a little from work events. I told her my wife and her husband were having an affair. She didn't believe me until I showed her the picture of them on my porch. She slapped me. I just stood there, unsure what to do. Then she covered her face and started crying. I gave her a flash drive with everything I had on my wife and her husband, told her my wife had multiple lovers, and advised her to get tested for STDs. I handed her my lawyer's card and my number. She asked why I was doing this, why I'd hurt her like that. She made me feel like the biggest piece of crap alive for a second. But I told her she had the right to know. And then I left.
Later that afternoon, around 4 p.m., my wife came by the house and found the locks had been changed. She started banging on the doors and shouting. I didn't respond. She tried calling. I declined the call. Then she broke a window and left. Close to 7 p.m., 2 paralegals arrived at my place. One of them was the friend who'd helped me move things earlier in the day, and his wife, also a friend, came along too. Right at 7, my wife showed up. She looked pretty shaken, and I was sure she and Amber had already had some sort of confrontation. I handed her the bags with her clothes, the key to the storage unit, and my lawyer's business card. I told her that from this point forward, all communication would be through my lawyer. She started with the usual lines, "I love you, we can work this out, I'm sorry, it was a mistake, it didn't mean anything." I simply pointed at the business card. Then she said that this was her home too, and I couldn't throw her out. I told her it was my home, and her actions had ended her place here. When she realized I wasn't going to change my mind, her "I love yous" turned into insults. The neighbors came out to watch, and I kept my cool, standing still while she kept yelling. I suspected she might have been drinking. Then she switched to crying, saying she had nowhere to go. I told her that was her responsibility to figure out. At that point, she lost her temper. She struck me in the face, splitting my lip and hurting my nose. I didn't retaliate, just stood there while my friend stepped in to calm things down. I refused to press charges, asking only that she be made to leave. When she was finally gone, I started cleaning myself up. That's when everything I'd been holding in for 2 months came crashing down on me. I felt completely drained. I thought I would feel better when it was all out in the open, but instead I just felt terrible. I'm not usually one to cry, but that night I did, more than once. By then, I had nearly 600 missed calls and messages on my phone, and the number was still going up. I decided to get away for a while,
to head to North Carolina with some mutual friends. I didn't want anyone trying to reconcile us. I didn't call my son that night, even though I usually do every day. I just couldn't. I told myself I'd speak to him the next evening. He never liked her anyway, so I knew the news wouldn't upset him much.
Update 3. The divorce papers are signed. Now I can share more openly what happened. Today I met with my wife and her lawyer. I didn't get everything I wanted, but I got enough. We agreed to an uncontested divorce, which should be finalized in about 2 months. That's the good news. She could barely look at me for most of the meeting. I'd like to think it was because she couldn't bring herself to face me, but who knows? Her lawyer was competent. He clearly knew this was a difficult case. They asked whether reconciliation was possible, and though the answer was no, they still went through the motions. She had to make a full disclosure of what she had done. She had already written something down for her lawyer, but it was less than what I already knew. My lawyer showed surveillance footage and asked who some of the unidentified people were. Clearly, she hadn't been entirely truthful. After a private discussion with her lawyer, she came back with a more complete list. She admitted that her relationship with her boss had gone on for nearly the entire time I'd known her, that she had also been involved with a coworker I knew well, and that she had met other men through dating sites. She claimed she didn't care for most of them, just wanted the excitement. I asked her privately why she had married me at all. She said she did love me, that I made her happy, but she also wanted stability, and she'd cared for someone else for years who was never going to leave his wife. I was, in her words, a safe choice. For those wondering, both she and that coworker were later dismissed from their jobs. Amber caused a scene at work. My ex ended up moving back in with her parents. As for her boss and his wife, I was told it's not my business what happened between them, but I suspect they stayed together. Then she told me something unexpected, that a couple of years ago she had ended a pregnancy because she didn't know who the father was. That hit me harder than I could describe. We had been trying to have a child at the time, though in a relaxed, no-pressure way. There's a good chance it might have been mine, but I'll never know. That was enough for me. I told my lawyer to proceed with the agreement as quickly as possible. By the end of that day, she had signed. In 2 months, it would be final. I kept my home, my retirement funds, all my possessions. No alimony for either of us. She received $73,000 from our savings and is not allowed to contact me. At this point, I honestly don't care what happens to her.
Update 4. About 2 months after my last update, I brought a new girl into the house. The divorce wasn't finalized yet, but the silence at home was getting to me. She's the sweetest little dog I've ever seen. A tiny 1-year-old Chihuahua, barely 8 inches tall and weighing just over 5 pounds, with an adorable underbite. I found her at a shelter and I couldn't resist. I was torn between naming her Maggie or something playful, but eventually I just started calling her my little beauty. I realized I needed someone who would always be happy to see me when I came home, and I found that in her.
Update 5. 3 weeks later, I received the official divorce decree in the mail. Strangely enough, it didn't make me feel happy or sad. Some friends wanted to celebrate with me, but I never saw the end of a marriage, even a bad one, as something to celebrate. I felt numb. I'm sure the emotions would catch up with me later. That same day, my ex called me. I answered, thinking there was nothing left to lose. She didn't apologize. Instead, she asked, "What's the point of all this?" I honestly don't know if she regrets what she did, but it doesn't matter anymore. Her parents miss my son and ask if they could still have contact with him. I'm fine with that, as long as it can happen without her being involved. They've been as close to family as he's had on her side. And for those wondering, I ended up naming my dog Dulcie, thanks to a commenter who suggested it. It suits her perfectly. She kept me warm during a snowstorm that left us without power or heat for 5 days, curling up beside me like a little soldier. For now, I've decided to take a long break from dating. Maybe one day I'll be ready to start something new, but at the moment, I know I need time to heal. Deep down, I had always suspected my ex didn't love me, that she'd leave someday and that she'd hurt me badly. And now I have to live with the fact that I was right. The nervousness before starting something new can be a good thing. I'm going to give myself the time I need to recover.
Update 6. 7 months later, I began therapy. I've been going for 2 months now. There's a lot in my head I need to work through, not just from this last betrayal, but from earlier in my life as well. One thing I've been considering is reconnecting with my sister. She's the only immediate family I have left, and I'd like my son to know his real relatives, not just my close friends he calls aunt and uncle. For nearly 30 years, I've held on to certain resentments, but maybe it's time to let go. My therapist supports this idea. I still believe I did the right thing years ago when I cut ties with people who didn't have my back, but I don't want to carry bitterness forever. I've decided that if my sister is willing to talk, I will too, with help from a cousin who's been in touch with both of us. As for my exes, both of them, I have no contact and I don't miss them. They brought nothing but pain into my life. I don't want to know what they're doing now, and I wish them no role in my future.
Update 7. A year after I confronted my ex was also the day that would have been our 7th wedding anniversary. It was a good day for me. I went for a run, made breakfast for my son, and went to work. Everything felt normal until mid-morning when I received a package at the office. It was cookies from my ex, something she used to send me every year. I told my coworkers they could have them. I was a bit irritated that someone had given her my new work address, but otherwise my mood stayed good. She has her little ways of trying to remind me she's still out there, like delaying her car payments so her finance company calls me. This felt like one of those. That evening, I came home to find my friends had thrown me a surprise barbecue. It was the perfect ending to the day. Update 8. 3 years have passed since the divorce, and my life is going well. Therapy has helped, though I still have some trust issues. They're part of me now, and I've accepted that. I've focused on rebuilding my self-respect and letting go of grudges. I've reconnected with my sister, and my relationships with her children have improved. They had grown up thinking I was just the odd uncle, without knowing the real story. Now they know, and things feel lighter between us. Through family conversations, I learned some truths about my first marriage that explained a lot about the way it ended. While it brought up old sadness, it also closed certain chapters for me. I had one relationship after the divorce that lasted about 8 months. She didn't cheat, but it didn't work out. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I was too alert for signs of trouble. Still, I see the positives. I no longer have to travel halfway across the country to see my son. I see him every day now. For those curious, my ex's former boss's wife eventually filed for divorce too. She reached out to me last year, and I was able to give her fresh copies of the evidence I'd once shared, which her husband had destroyed. I even paid her attorney's retainer as a gesture of support. I have no news on anyone else from that time, and no news is good news. Time really does fly. 3 years have passed since the divorce, and looking back now, I can say that life truly can get better after something like this. Here's what I've learned. Cherish your real friends and lean on them when you need to. A true friend will help you stay standing when you can't hold yourself up. Time may not heal every wound, but it can heal many of them. Let the people you care about be the balm that eases your pain. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. In the end, you're the only one who truly can. Forgive if you're able, but don't forget, even if you wish you could. Stay strong.
I'm grateful to everyone who supported me through this journey. Just because we've been through something terrible doesn't mean we're still trapped in it. We can move forward. That's where my story ends. As far as I can tell, life has turned out well for me. I haven't posted further updates in a while, but I still check in sometimes to comment on other people's posts. Looking back, I believe I handled things as well as I could have given the circumstances. The choices I made were the right ones for me, and I hope that anyone going through something similar can find the strength to do the same for themselves.